Alright, hi. Engine maintenance manual number 252C for models 567C. Engine 3rd edition, January 1st, 1957. We're on chapter 2. Alright, section 2, cylinder head assembly. Description: cylinder heads. Cylinder heads are made of the alloy cast iron steel clamped in with the crankcase with the cylinder head. Grab at the figure 2-1 brown cylinder head. Seat ring is used at the top of the retainer and cylinder head. The cylinder head is located with the line up with the discharge of the outlet with the elbow of the figure 2-2 between the cylinder head and the crankcase 567. The cylinder head is not interchangeable with the other 567 and series engine serial heads. Series heads. The head in the cast for the core water patch for the head of the drill, opening with the bottom of the figure 2-3 with the patch for the water outlet hole with the top of the cylinder with the linear with which it seats exhaust patches of the cylinder line up with the mating with elbows with the retaining with the conduct exhaust gases through the water discharge manifold exhaust manifold. The wall is located with the center of the cylinder head with the application for the unit of the fuel injector injection, locating the dowel pin holes to provide with the standard with a high output injector with the standard injector dowel hole is in the cylinder head with the head vertical. Center line with the dowel hole for the higher higher output injector is located with the vertical center line for a specific injector application. Section 11. Cylinder head assemblies include with 3 rocker arms, 4 exhaust valve with springs and valve bridges, springs, valve guides, overhead speed trip, Paul and forward and fault fuel injectors. Show the top of the cylinder heads. Alright. Alright, and your injector control lever shown with exploded view with the 2-4 with the circular with the linear with the each with the 8-cylinder with the whole head to the liner nuts. Head the hardened washer for the each with the nut with the 2-sign water discharge elbow figure 2-5 with you the 567 the C engine cylinder head. Two elbows have a long siphon tube that extend with the down with the water discharge manifold with the end of the clove with the bottom of the manifold. All outer water discharge elbows with the U with the engine, but they do not have siphon tube with the name of the ply with the lube long tube acts as a siphon of the engine water with the being drained with the empty water from the discharge manifold. Important with the last cylinder head with the right of the bank with the first cylinder head with the left of the bank having the siphon the tube discharge elbow. The cylinder head and piston position of the siphon tube with the farthest end of the manifold provide with the manifold during engine is not level. Exhaust valve with the long with the stem type of the having the metal face with the metal face. Valves 8206109. The valves identical to the valve 8082254 and using figure 22 of 567 series engine. The hardened and polished stem ends with the head with the springs tapered with the spring seat with the valve covered and lock tapered with the pit with the spring seat with the valve with the guideline precision type with the providing ample length with the proper with the valve operating exhaust valves with the using the cylinder heads with the higher output 5016 567 one cylinder C 1750 horsepower engine with a satellite with except for the satellite metal with the valve with the 8206109 being identified with the 132-inch groove with the 532-inch top of the valve between the top of the valve and the first of the low key groove. Some of the furs of the satellite face usually did not have the 132-inch groove. It can only be identified with the part number 8206109. Alright, your valve bridge hydraulic lash adjuster shows the top of the exhaust side and the bottom. Alright, your valve bridge operates with the 2 exhaust valve with one over the rocker with an arm returning spring with a retainer with the head of the ball seat with the held valve bridge stems and stems by the CL ring with the best seat with the socket with the cylinder head with the springs applied with the pressure with the valve bridges will have contact with the rocker arm. The hydraulic lash adjusters used with the 567 C engine with the longer travel with the maintained with the 0 lashes between the valve stem, valve bridge, and the assembly with just the body plunger spring ball check valve ball check retainer. Alright, cylinder head assembly rocker arms overspeed use ball rocker arm shaft injector crab valve bridge injector valve bridge ring and locks cylinder head exhaust valves. A snap ring retaining within the body shown figure 2-6 with the lube oil flow for the rocker arm with the drill with the patch of the valve body with the top of the lash adjuster with the bells, the check valve with the end of the body with the rocker arm just pressed with the valve with the bridge with a slight movement over the plunger with the lash with the adjuster. See with the ball check with the trapping with the oil since the oil is particularly incompressible. The further movement over the rocker arm comes to the lash of the siphon tube with the adjuster plunger to force open the exhaust valve with the proper hydraulic lash adjustment with very important because of its own effect over the valve operation. See the item under the maintenance adjusting hydraulic glass adjusters. Rocker arms number 3, rocker arms figure and 2, 7 the mounted with the cylinder head with the 2 rocker arms accuted with the 4 exhaust valve with the 3rd. Operates the injector with the rocker arms that operate directly for the camshaft with the cam fowler with mounted on the fork end of each of the rocker arm with the opposite end of each of the rocker has adjusting screw for the lockout over the swing with the injector time with the adjusting with the hydraulic lash adjusters. So you have figure 2.6 shows the hydraulic lasher with the valve bridge ball check and the plunger and the lash adjuster with the exhaust valve with the oil flow. Your exploded rocker arm assembly show the injector seal with the rotating spring pin, adjusting screw, rocker and lock nut, cam fowler, floating bushing, inner race for the cam fowler pin and retainer. Your oil pump jump liner with the camshaft with the bearing cord carries the oil with the rocker arm through the drill pass with the rocker arm shown figure 2.1 with the rocker arm isn't drilled and supplied with the air with the valve bridge with the lasher with the adjuster with the cam valve with the cylinder test valve with the cylinder test valve with the valve body valve stem with the packing with the nut seat ring and assembly insert with the housing with the crankcase screw with the cylinder head with the figure 2A with the purpose of the cylinder test with the valve with the relief of the compression within the cylinder to the permanent detection of the water and oil combustion chamber with the engine before the engine started with the rotating of the crankshaft with the engine turning jack with the cylinder test valve with the redemption for the figure 2.6 for the use and the open the valve with the 3 turns before the rotation with the close with the after the inspection maintenance. The maintenance procedure for the following with the consists of the removing, the cleaning, with the reconditioning, installing with the cylinder head with the components bar with the cylinder head with the magnet flux inspection maintenance with the instructions of 1754. It shows figure 2.8 shows the cylinder test valve with the cylinder test valve with the cylinder test valve should be open 3 turns with the liquid accumulation of cylinders before the starting with the engine has been dead in considerable length of time. To relieve the compressor when the surfacing of the engine with the caution for the do not open the test valve too far with it as they may be forced out with the pressure possibly causing injury. Rotate with the crankshaft at least 1 turn with the test valve open and with the observe of the test valve with the discharge. If any of the liquid expelled with any of the test valve, with no attempt should be made with the restart of the engine until the liquid removed from the core out and caused and corrected. Then figure 2.9 shows the cylinder test valve wrench and the wrench test valve with the wrench X80325587, the figure 2.9. Use the opening with the clove of the test valve with the carry should be taken out to tighten with the valve with the 2 tight as to damage of the valve seat with the possible rain engine for the cylinder has exhaust valve stacked with the open exhaust when the locomotive is left outside with the shutdown when the rain conditions warrant. Exhaust stacks should be covered. Shows the reaming of the test valve seat in figure 2.10. Cylinder test valve leak with the nominating tightening of the valve seat with it should be reamed and use of the reamer number 8064804 figure 2.10 with the valve seat with the diameter top sheet not exceed 1/4 inch. The valve stem seat valve stem stay with the score of the damage should be regrounded with the rehardened within the case of the depth of the 5,000 to the 10,000 for the inch for the minimum length of the seat with the protrusion of 1/4 inch with the installment of the cylinder test valve with applied with a small amount with a white lead with a pipe thread compound with to the threads. This and will alleviate the rusting and the hiding and the remove of the easy oiler to remove the test with the valve with the loosening packing of the remove assembly from the cylinder head by unscrewing the body nut. 2. Remove the cylinder head with the cylinder test valve with the must be removed with the engine cooling water system the drain before attempting to remove the cylinder head with the cylinder liner is to be removed. Remove the piston cooling pipe per pipe assembly with the water jump line before starting with the remove the cylinder head. Remove the rocker arm to the rocker shaft with the valve bridge with the disconnect of the camshaft bearing with the rocker arm on the oil line with the remove of the rocker shaft cap nose remove cap with the remove of the rocker arm assembly with being careful not to let the shaft fall from the rocker arms. Remove the valve bridges. Remove the injector disconnect with fuel oil line with the injector fuel oil manifold. Remove the adjuster injector link. Remove the injector crab. Remove the injector using the pry bar. Protect the injector from the dirt and damage for the using the whole rack or ship container. This shows removing the injector receiver, removing the hot liner with the stud nut of the washer, remove the crab nose for the crab. 1. Place the protector, place protector tubes over the stud of the protective threads. Remove the cylinder head with the head. Remove the tool. Protect the water outlet elbow. Place the head with the cylinder and carrying the basket with the protect with the washing machine gas nut. Surface the damage. Remove the cylinder head with the seat ring with the check with the wear. Maintenance of the file number 232 with the given them with the construction detail with the equipment with the handling of the cylinder head with the linear piston and rod assembly with available upon request. Rock arms and shaft. Inspector over the arms and bushings. Cam follow rock arms and shaft lockout. Look for evidence of the discolorization of wear, shelling, and scuffing due to lack of the lubrication, inspect with the fatigue of the cracks of air wheel and the specification valve bridge. If the lack is adjusted, clean the valve bridge. If the using solvent, inspect with the wear of the damage and rework. The following paragraph of the removing the installing of the valve bridge states with the figure 2/12 of the mounting of the valve bridge. Spring compression tool is in device with the valve of the bridge with the compression tool with the compressor of the valve with the remove of the spring and snap ring and the remove of the spring and install with the new spring. Valve spring with the elliptical seat is required with the replay for the spring with using the spring spring ring tool for the remove of the install with the hydraulic lasher and the node with the inoperative lash adjust for the noise if it can be located with the engine with the running and the idle with therefore sharpening of the tool. Sharpening the taping with this must be with the notice of the time with this good with the adjuster for the first starting with the engine with the cause of the cold oil. To correct with this condition, remove the lasher adjuster clean when the replacing parts is necessary. Remove the lasher adjustment assembly. Clamp for the valve with the bridge vise to remove the lasher adjuster shown figure 213. Use the lasher adjuster remove the tool fuel arm and use for this tool for the removing the long travel adjuster to install the lasher adjuster assembly. Use the installation tool shown figure 214. Internal part of the lasher adjuster, remove the cleaning with a replacement and reinstall with removing the lasher adjuster body valve bridge. Use the tool with a plug with a compressed lasher adjuster plunger. Remove the snap ring. As shown in figure 215, use the snapping, then remove the tool and clean the lasher adjuster. Maybe clean without removing the body with the valve bridge for the outline with the dirt is in the lasher adjuster. It will cover the lube oil to leak. Pass the ball check for this can also be tested with a depressor plunger and by hand. The plunger can be rapidly depressed with the lasher adjuster fuller. Shows the removing of the hydraulic lasher adjuster figure 213 and installing the lasher adjuster figure 214. The oil ball with the ball check leak with the correct with the condition of disassembling the lasher adjuster outlined above with the cleaning all the parts thoroughly with the gummy disposition with the plunger with the cleaning with the using alcohol the lacquer thinner with the lasher adjuster reassemble the valve with the bridge and the fuel filled with the lube oil with the testers above with the replacing the defective exhaust valve with the guides. The remove of the valve spring with the compressor with the ring, U with the compressor, move with the adapter with the screw to the head, U with the type with the compressor with the tool with the compressor with all four spring with the valve spring that can be removed with the replacing with the removing of the cylinder head from the engine by using a special short adapter tool. This is done with the position with the top of the drum with the prevent the valve with the falling into the cylinder. When the valve locks, remove the valve with the valve bridge spring should be returned and be inspected with the next of the unusual wear with the remove with the do not clean with the spring with the use of the hydro blasting, grit blasting minimum with the free length of the spring 3 and 31, 32 for the inch for the seats, which should be inspected. Unusual wear and damage minimum thickness of the spring seat with surface of 0.145 0.1540 inch of an inch. Mating locks and valves. Stand with the before and some of the valves. Have with the check with the conical lock for the valve. Stand with the lock with the fit. Usually even to try a new lock. If the new lock is loose, indicate with the valve with the stem groove with the worn with the discover the valve lock. And if either is worn, check the lock with the springs together. Manage for the obtaining with the ridge assembly with the nose spring, the seat with the wobble is felt. Valve locks supplied with the 80228122 may or may not have the groove on the top of it. Should be taken with the two type with the not mixed with the installing level of the valve. Both locks on the valve must be identical type. Reconditioning. If there is any evidence discovered the galvaning of the valve stem, that must be completely removed with the polishing of the valve with the replay with examining the valve head for the cracks and scuffing of the face with the visual inspection, magnifying with the lens zigzag-glow inspection where available. Look for the indication of failure with the valve face for the edge bottom of the machine portion of the head's welded junction in the stem. Figure 216 show the compression valve spring. Alright, for refacing the valve with the following instructions. Live with the valve with the refacing the machine. 110 volt with a 220 volt with a such grinding wheel with the refacing stairlight with the face exhaust valve with the use of the Black & Decker grinder on universal number 6 and the Albertson Co. CX model 663. The tool catalog complete the description with the valve tool with the valve guide is pressed with the fit and the cylinder head can be pressed with anybody or press and put using the valve with the installing and removing the tool to prevent the damage of the guide. All the valve guides are precision guides that generally do not require the reaming after the assembly as recommended with the 0.626 inch of reamer or plug gauge be inserted with the after the guide installation with 0.626 inch of the minimum diameter with the precision valve guide with the limits of the referred specification of the valve guides over the end of the section. Alright, 6 cylinder heads. Cleaning and inspection cylinder heads should be thoroughly cleaned with a disassembling outline with the maintenance for the instruction 1706. And when it has been removed from the cleaning of the tank with the stud hole should be cleaned with a stud hole cleaning tool. Figure 217 is available for the purpose of cleaning cylinder test valve threads in the head 1/2 inch standard pipe tap, which head is stud hole cleaning and tool cleaning inspection for cracks cracks and damages. Figure 218 shows valve clearance, exhaust valve clearance. Instruction 2127 of the cylinder head with the magnum flux inspection with the satisfactory procedure for the following surface with the grinder valve with the U of the valve with the recon condition set 115 volt or 220 volt with the do not U of the grinding compound. See figure 228 with the valve seat dimension proceed as valve with the drift of the grinding wheel before using each of the cylinder head not as the figure 219 with the wipe of the pilot oil seal clean cloth with the lubricating. Do not get oil on the grinding wheel. Adjust the spiral sleeve on the dressing tool until the wheel to touch with the diamond with the manifold adjustment. Diamond adjusting the screw with the hole for the grinding of the wheel with the revolve with the wheel with the revolve within the high speed drive with the drive with the straight with as possible. Move with the diamond seat steadily across the wheel with them taking light cuts. Keep the grind wheel properly with dress with retaining the best result with a fast grind with the accuracy with a smooth finish. Clean valve guidelines cleaning tool with a drill with a 220 volt with a 100 volt showing figure 220 with evidence for the gouging inside. By reaming the guide with a relief of the C specification condemning limit the C select with the tap of the pilot with the ring with the shoulder on the pilot with the valve guide with the press of the pilot firmly into the guide with the U of the pin with a white pilot with an oily cloth with reaming inside outside with the valve C with the confirm with the dimension with the given in figure 218 U with the reamer crab clamp and with the adapter to apply with the even with the adjust of the pressure for the reamer figure 221 first U with the reamer with the ream and the clearance inside with the C with the angle of the reamer has been changed 75 to 70 degrees. Conform to the current design of the top outside of the valve set with the narrow of the proper of a 332 7-inch plus or minus 1.321 an inch using following reamer the cylinder head with the shear with a 558 222 67 after the 316 within the raised edge of the valve with the C with the bottom of the head with the heads of the reamer and the reamer on all cylinder heads with the prior to serial 558 2267 after completing the reaming. Operation blowout cut cuttings over the air hose, the wiper, the parts. 5. Placing the holder of the wheel out over the pilot with the insert of the abrasive cloth with the trim of the grinding wheel with the valve with the sheet with the cleaning of the sheet with the turning of the holder with the by the hand with the remove of the abrasive cloth with the proceed to the ground with the driving motor as shown in figure 222 with no pressure required with the grinding of the permanent with the driving the motor with the run with the top speed with the hole with the driving motor straight with as possible the grind until the valve seat with the true with the raise of the grinding wheel off the seat with the before stepping the motor. 6. Check with the valve seat width with the, over the 1/8 of an inch ream with the outside with the reamer with the grind lightly to remove any raised edge of the cover of the reamer. U with the indicator is 8073108 with include the valve with the grinding seat with the measure for the tuners of the valve seat. Play for the indicator over the plier figure 223. Adjust for the indicator to press with the slightly ball valve with the side seat rider with the center of the valve seat with the rotate the valve seat rider. Observe the indicator reading of the valve seat out of the round will indicate on the dial indicator reading not exceeding 0.002 of an inch. Attempt should be made with the obtainment of the perfect valve seat. But it isn't very important with the valve life with a picture of it is available with the checking valve grinding seat testing arbors the end to ensure the satisfactory result of the grinding arbor should not exceed 5/10,000 of an inch. Run out pilot check valve within pictures 224 grinding valve seat 222. Testing valve seat with the check with the seat valve with the assembly valve with the spring with the cylinder head placed with the head with the angular position resting on the rocker arm assembly. Rocker arm stiff valve seat of the seats up with the be sure that the bottom of the head is clean with the vacuum cup fit lifter with the issue with the test the valve seat with the apply soap with the suitable lubrication with the concave with the surface of the vacuum with the cup apply with the cylinder head care with the covering only one valve with the be sure the seal that does not form the head of the valve thereby testing the cup of the portion over the valve with instead of the seat and then place the valve tester with the hand with the 6 o'clock positions over the tester will fall off readily with the vacuum deplete with that tester valve falls off with less than 3 minutes of the valve seat with the defective within the head seat when the valve place must be reworked to remove the tester for the open open with the trick valve, with the check with the valve, C with the tester with occasionally, but applying vertical pieces of glass because of the reach valve with the rubber cup with the may become the defect for the new valve. Vacuum caps are available to check for the height of the valve stem. After reconditioning the valve seats with the height of the valve with the stem with above the cylinder head, when the must be checked with the VISMA is done. You with the valve stem with the tram, as shown figure 226 with the cleaning off of the bolt for the feet of the tram and with the portion of the cylinder head with the trams rest with that holds the tram down firmly on the cylinder head with the U with the filler gauge with the screw with the determine the difference with the valve stem height and with the difference of the height between the valve stem and with the same over the same with the bridge should not vary with between 1/16th of an inch of the difference varies from more than 1/16th of an inch. High valve should be replaced and lower valve grounding with a provided with it does not exceed with the limits of the given them figure 218 with the end of the valve should not be ground with the as over the tip of the tar with the 27 the installment of the cylinder head before installing the cylinder head be sure that the retainer inner of the surface of the exhaust is clean and loose carbon and oil with examine the cylinder head and leads with the cleaning of the internally with the end of the particular with the bottom of the surface of the cleaning and the free of the dirt and nicks or scratches which we cover the water to seal with the gas give the leak with the cleaning of the liner and the holes with the using of the tool if the tool is available, the wire brush can be used with the remove the rust and with the scale with the dirt with these hole with the recommended with the adjust the prior to the installation and with the cylinder head with a small quantity with the green soap with the applied bottom of all the water with the shut help to prevent the possibility with the dirt dropping over the water seal with the cylinder head gasket with the surface during with the installation with the head linear studs nuts should be examined with the disc cover the bottom of the nuts and the threads with the galv with the insert with the area with the cracked and torn with the frayed with the inspect with the cylinder head with the wash with the damage of the surface with the warped condition and the replay with the required copper clad steel with the stream liner. The head gasket should be installed with the notch of the hole of the linear plug. The stuff of the least left adjacent with the stuff. Examine the counterboard with the liner holes of the be sure of the air with the free of the dirt and next to the wood brake with the seal of the grommets. Install with the new with the seal ring for the cleaning of the groove of the wheel. Water discharge elbow, the cleaning flange of the surface with the cleaning head with the elbow, with the ply with the elbow, with the head with the torque valve, with the elbow, with the head with the cap screw with 30 foot-pound with the discharge with the water with the elbow, also shift with the position of the cylinder head within the crankcase. The elbow may be removed with the chain with the seals with the necessary reapply with the head with the install with the removal of the crab above and otherwise cylinder head installed with the need not to be disturbed with the thin sheet with the shim with the should be used in between the elbow flame with the cylinder head with the buzz also taken in place with the elbow with the application with the cylinder head with the in place for the important with the last cylinder head right bank with the first cylinder head with the left bank with the siphon tube with the discharge elbow permit with the water drain with the discharge of the manifold with the drain with the engine cooling water with the arrangement ensure for the drainage of the event with the engine with the not level of the drainage. When the preliminary work was complete with the proceed with the installation cylinder head with the valve with the cylinder head with the seat ring with the top of the retainer with the specification seat the seat ring limited with the lower head of the into position slowly with the liner over the water discharge elbow over the mating of the hole with the crankcase. Applying the cylinder liner with the studs with the nuts with the type tighten snugly with the lube oil with the lubrication with the specification similar with the Texaco stud number 2921 with the threads of the bottom nuts with the edge of the initial tightening apply only 75 pounds of torque. And apply with the crab and the crab nuts with the some lubrication similar to be above with the threads with the pull the crab nuts with the down snugly tighten liner stud with the pro rocker torque of 200 foot-pounds to indicate within stretch sketch figure 227 the making the several rounds. Tighten the crab nuts for the crab nuts should be and tighten alternately forming the letter X for the two passes for the torque half torque about each of the each pass. With a power wrench, maybe you with the machine ratio of the 12:1 and the socket extension with you with the 60 with the 60-inch extension can also be used with the torque valve with the crab nose with the 1800 plus minus 5% of the foot-pounds. Install injector connection fuel oil lines and inspect the link of the injector crab with the torque valve 40 to 50 foot-pounds. Install valve bearings with the winch protruding with the boss door with the camshaft with the uniform assembly rack around with the lube oil line set valve with the per item 8 below. Install the cylinder test valves. Apply liner. Apply linear inlet lining position cooling oil pipe if the items were removed. The 4 applying the P with the pipe cleaning with the cleaning tool for the after the applying the check with the check alignment with the position carry within the tool with the after some of the installed with everything tight with the properly adjusting with the engine with the ready. Run start the engine rate with the water with temperature 170 degrees Fahrenheit with the recheck with the torque with the crab with the linear stud nuts. Inspect the assembly for the addition after the running note. Whenever the linear and the crab nuts are being tightened with these, with removed with the less over the specified torque with the valve with the retighten with the proper torque valve with the proper torque value with the nuts with the do not move with the low up of the proper values should be checked with the pulling up with the valve with the not exceeding the 10% more with the recommended with the torque values. Specifically offset box set wrenches used with a standard torque with which are available to tighten the inaccessible cylinders, heads, nuts under the installed rocker arms. Alright, 8. Adjusting the hydraulic elastomer application with the proper operating elastomer adjuster with the core setting with the subsequent inspection with the regular maintenance for the intervals of the import with the valve with operation properly set with the defective elastomer adjuster for the cover of the valve with the BU with the increase of the stresses which leads to ultimate failure with the cross resulting in the damage of the engine after completing the cylinder head with the assembly that has been installed with the elastomer adjuster must be C. Move of the crankshaft with the position with the near the top center with the cylinder line being set with loosening the rocker arms over the arm, adjusting over the screw lock nuts over the turn the rocker arm, adjusting screw with the last valve touch of the hydraulic glass adjuster plunger within one half turn towards further down. The check valve of the bridge of the seat over the to be sure with the spring loaded against with the cylinder head is the cylindrical seat. If the bridge cylindrical seat with the not spring loaded against with the cylinder head with the cylindrical seat with any of the loosening event with the evident turn the down with the rocker arm adjusting the screw until no looseness is felt, but then turn into the 1/4 and turn further down. Tighten the rocker adjusting screw lock nut with the after running with the engine for the 2 or 3 minutes with the after pumping oil from the pump outlet out of the last adjuster with the forcing down with the rocker arm clearing for the last adjuster body with the end of the valve stem with the piston and over the near of the top of the clearance is less than one of the sequences of the 1/16 of the main cylinder head should be removed and the reconditioning with rejection over the UV the minimum extension of the gauge is shown figured for 228 with a gas lodger adjusting with the plunger of the minimum extension of the gauge is 1/16 of an inch thick and should be fit between the last adjuster and the valve stem and that is sure of 1/16 of an inch clearance. Alright, 9. Track defective noise cylinder with not firing properly with the will have the cooler exhaust and the compared to one with the firing properly. With this is caused by excessive ring blow by crack piston. The drum of the injector faulty with the disconnect with the injector adjustment linked with the suspected cylinder with the engine running out with the speed control rack with the open slowly will return idle position as soon as the observation is made with the injector operating properly with the pronounced laboring of the cylinder will have been detected exhaust valve with the leak with the detected with the outside of the locomotive pronounced below with the exhaust stack of the engine idling. To locate the leaking cylinder with the install of the cylinder and the test adjuster for the place for the cylinder test valve with the connection with the air hose and adapter rotating the engine until the stem of the cylinder is to be tapped at the top of the stem with the turn oil pressure. If the valves over the leaking with the below will be heard with the exhaust valve with this method can also be used with the checking excessive ring blow and by in this case the blow will be heard in the air box with the piston crack blow will be detected in oil pan. 10. Repair damage with the permissible rework cylinder heads of the damaged seating surface limit is limit shown figure 229. A. Bad leaking exhaustment valve with defective with the injector proper timing controlling rack setting dirter injector filter airbound injector shows minimum plunger check and cylinder head dimensions figure 229 and then it goes over specifications. And we're on section 3, piston, connection rods, and connection rod bearings.